everybody! In this video, we're going to talk about an introduction to factoring and using a method called grouping. So at the end of the video, I want us to be able to define the steps of factoring using grouping. Okay, so a reminder what factoring is. Remember, it's the reverse process of multiplying polynomials. So in the past, remember when we have two parentheses, we multiply them together using FOIL or our box method, and then we get something that looks like this. Today, we are going to be given something that looks like this, and we're going to go backwards using factoring to put it in its two parentheses. Okay, so the methods of factoring, when we say factor, it's kind of like an overarching term. Today we're just focusing on grouping, but I want to give you guys the full picture because at the end of the unit, you guys are going to need to know what method to use. So the first thing when it says factor, we are going to try to take out the greatest common factor. That is so important, and it's going to save you so much time if you do it at the beginning. So even today, when we are using grouping, a specific method of factoring, we are always going to see if we can take out a greatest common factor first. And then we're going to look at how many terms. So if there's two terms, we're going to use either the difference of squares or the SOAP formula. We'll do that in another video. Today, this is where we're focusing on grouping. So when you have an x squared, an x, and a number, after you see if you can take out a greatest common factor, then we can use grouping. Grouping will work every single time. If there is a 1 in front of the x squared, we can use a shortcut method, which I will show you guys in another method. If you don't want to know the shortcut, grouping will always work, even when there's a 1. And then for terms, we could also use the process of grouping, again, in another video. If we can do none of these, then we are going to call it prime. Sometimes we are not able to find something that works with grouping, and that's okay. That just might mean that it is prime. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to write the notes down here, and then in the next video, we're going to do an example. So we have to make sure that it is in ax squared plus bx plus c, and we need to make sure it's in standard form, and we're going to see if we can factor out, remember, step 1, that greatest common factor. Step 2, we're going to find two numbers that multiply to a times c and add to the middle term b. If that doesn't make sense, that's okay. Remember, we're just taking notes. In the next one, we're going to do an example. Then we're going to rewrite and break up that middle term. So see 11x here, we're going to break it up into 5 plus 6 because 5 plus 6 gives me 11. And then we're going to group, find the greatest common factor, and factor each parenthesis. So here I'm taking the greatest common factor of these guys, greatest common factor of these guys. I'm putting the numbers on the outside. Then I'm going to finish. I'm going to put the similar factors in the first parenthesis and the leftovers in the second parenthesis. Again, I know that this does not make sense yet. We will go into detail, but make sure you have the steps. That way we can look at them and reference them as we solve in the next video.